Hello and welcome everyone. In our last few videos, we have discussed a lot about the Italian game. We have seen the winning attacking plan from white as well as from the black side. But in today's video, I am going to share with you the secret line in the Italian game. Now, this is a secret line that will help you win a lot of games. So let's get started. It starts with e4. Black responds symmetrically with pawn to e5. We play a knight f3, attacking the e5 pawn. He plays knight c6, defending it. Bishop c4, and when black plays his bishop to c5, the Garry piano. Here we have seen pawn c3, and I have suggested you the move pawn to d3. That was also the winning attacking plan. If in case you have missed our last video, then the link is in the description box. But in today's video, I am going to share with you the aggressive, the very strong pawn d4. After pawn c3, if black is careless and does nothing to defend this threat on d4 and plays a normal looking move like pawn to d6, then we are going to go with pawn d4, attack the bishop as well as the pawn. If he captures on the d4 square, then he is actually exchanging his central pawn with a flank pawn, which is already good for white. And now if the bishop goes back on the b6 square, the position looks completely good for white. If he comes on the b4 square, which many of the players would do, then you can simply play your knight to c3 and you're doing fine. The bishop is ready to jump on the g5 square, the king is ready to castle. But what if he is not exchanging your pawn and he just goes back with his bishop on the b6 square? That's a complete disaster for black because now you will be capturing on the e5 square. He captures it back with his knight, you capture it, doesn't matter with which piece he captures. Next you're going to go bishop f7. Give a check. If the king captures the bishop, then his queen is gone. This is a discovered attack on the queen and a check on the king. If the king comes up, then you have many moves like bishop g5. And it is a trap that will help you win a lot of game with white. But let's see if he's not careless and he's not playing his pawn to d6. Okay, if any other move like pawn h6 that we have seen in the last videos, the link is already in the description box. You can check that out. You can go with pawn d4, attack the bishop as well as the pawn. He captures it, you can capture it back. Now after bishop b4 check, you can go knight c3 and the position is more or less same. Many of the players do play their pawn to h6. The reason is they are afraid of this knight g5 coming in or bishop g5 coming in. That's why they play their pawn to h6, but that is not good for black because this is how you will get a good position from the white side. Okay, let's see if he's not playing any normal looking move but is playing the correct move. Let's say if he plays the knight to f6, which is the correct line, then we can still go with a pawn to d4. Now the bishop is in danger, the pawn is in danger. He will capture your pawn on the d4 square. And if you capture it back with c takes on d4, then bishop b4, this is the line. This has a very long theory and we have discussed this before, that you play your knight to. So I'll quickly show you that. If he captures there, you play your knight to c3 and then this pawn will be captured. You can anytime give it away, you can castle it, but that has a long theory. What I want to suggest you today here is don't recapture on the d4 square immediately. Instead, you go for an in-between move. You go for an intermediate move. Go for an attack on the knight. Play your pawn to e5. Now, take your time. Think as black over here. What would you do here as black? Okay, now when you have thought about it, you will realize that this is actually dangerous for black. Black doesn't have much good squares to go to. Cannot go here. Like there are multiple choices where black would want to go, but all of them are really bad. Let's start with knight g4. If he places knight to g4, then we can give an attack to this knight, but first we are going to capture on the d4 square with our c pawn. Now the bishop is in danger. He gives you a check, you play your knight to c3. Now if he castles, like he does a normal developing move, if he castles, you can give an attack to this knight and kick this knight off. Play your pawn to h3. He will go back on the h6 square. That's the only possible square. Now you can anytime capture this knight and destruct his pawn structure. Or you can first try to play your bishop to g5, attack the queen, destruct the position of his first. The queen goes to an odd square on e8 square. Then you go and capture the knight. He captures back and now knight d5 comes in. Right? Idea behind knight d5 is to attack on the c7 square, attacking the bishop, also attacking this f6, a juicy square for the knight, where he can fork the king and the queen. So overall, you see the position for white is much better. And if you get this position, you reach to this level, then winning is really easy after this. Okay, going back few moves, what if he's not going with his knight to g4? Instead, what if he plays his knight to e4? That is also bad for black because now you can go bishop d5 and the knight is trapped. The knight has no good squares to go to. He cannot go to f6 because of your pawn. This square is taken care with your knight as well as the bishop, and going here would be a simply blunder. So the knight is completely trapped. Knight e4 is not a choice. Okay, let's see what if he's not going on g4, not on e4, then what else can he do? He can play his queen to e7. If your opponent is smart, that means he can pin your pawn, and then he is not only pinning the pawn but he is giving an attack to the e5 pawn twice with the queen as well as with the knight. You're defending it only with your knight, and right now you cannot capture the knight because it is pinned. So what we'll do is we can simply castle. Here, if he captures your pawn, now the threat is alive, right? You can capture on the f6 square, so the threat is alive. If he captures on the e5 square with his knight, then you simply go with your rook to e1, pinning along the file. He captures your knight on the f3 square thinking that it's a check. Do not do a mistake here of automatically capturing it with the queen. If you do that, then you lose the rook and eventually the game. Here what you have to do is you have to capture the knight with your pawn. And now this is pinning and winning the queen. So that also doesn't look good. Queen e7 is also not a good idea. So what is the correct way? How should black respond to this? The correct idea to respond is to play the pawn to d5. Now this requires a lot of theory and a lot of understanding. This pawn e5 comes actually as a surprise for black, and black should be prepared for this move. The correct idea is to play pawn d5 and attack your bishop. Now your bishop is in danger, so you would want to defend it. Your bishop is in danger, his knight is in danger. You want to defend your bishop and you can go back on the b5 square, pinning his knight to the king. Now he still has an attack on the knight. If he defends his knight by playing on the e4 square, then you can recapture the pawn on d4 with c takes on d4, attacking the bishop. The bishop drops on the b4 square, giving you a check. You can play your bishop to d2, knight to d2, anything is fine. After recapture and you recapture it, now your position is strong. This is solidified, right? You are having a great control in the center. And let's say after some normal moves like he plays his bishop to g4, pinning your knight. Well, now you can start with capturing on the c6 square because bishop on b5 cannot come back and has not much good squares to go to. So you can simply exchange it with the knight on c6 square and destruct his pawn structure. Now this pawn on the c file is doubled and you can attack it in various ways, like you can go with your rook to c1, you can go queen c2. But a best way to attack this is to play your queen to a4. Queen a4 not only attacks the pawn but also attacks the bishop. If your opponent tries to act smart and plays his pawn to c5, thinking that he is defending the bishop as well as the pawn, then you can simply capture it. When he recaptures it, boom, that's a discovered attack to the bishop, and you are going to win the bishop eventually. In all, it is a complete attacking line as well as aggressive and strong to play from the white side. So you have to remember that pawn c3, then d4. When he captured on the d4 square, you don't immediately recapture. Instead, you first do an in-between move. You play a pawn to e5, attack his knight. And that's how you're going to win a lot of games using this line. For more such amazing tricks and traps, stay tuned with us. Till the time, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.